We actually practice being one, and we have infinity in which to play. Imagine an infinite play box. And that's what excites me, because when they say you are creators, they literally mean it. We have all of eternity, or the eternal now, to create in every dimension we can conceive of and delight in what we create. And we do it out of harmony, not out of desperation or need or any other reason. So yeah, it sounds like a real cliche, but how's what we got working for us is there's so many people who are not happy with what there is here. So we might as well visualize something that works at the very basis of. You start with human relationships. Imagine all of us getting along.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
Hello and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. As always, wonderful to be here chatting to you all again. And as I say every day on the show, please remember to like, subscribe, share the shows and all that good stuff. And also I have an affiliate link for all the books that I promote on the show on my websites. I always forget people to use affiliate link. I've never made any money out of it, but if you do feel to buy the books, you can always do it on the affiliate link on the website. Well, I have a wonderful man to introduce you to today. His name is Kosta Makreas. Welcome, Kosta.
Welcome, Karen. It's nice to meet you finally, face to face.
I know. And Kevin Briggs, who I've had on the show quite a few times, insisted that I connect with you. You've got to have Kosta on your show. You've got to have Kosta on your show.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, we love Kevin. And I had seen your work and I thought, yeah, absolutely. I have to have Kosta on the show, because since I did the Higher Self Expo, which was an online expo with Zane Daniels and quite a few other co-hosts around the world, I've been focusing on, so that was a few weeks ago, I've been focusing on the galactic conversation, and you're a big part of that galactic conversation.
Yeah, I like to think so. I've spent the last, 15 years inserting myself, doing what I can with it, ever since I had my very first, you might say, galactic encounter with a small starship in the company of quite a few other people. And boy, that was a change of course. It opened me up and made me want to become part of the greater heavens. I mean, I already was a part of all that. It's a matter of awareness. So I realized that there's a whole other slew of civilizations visiting here, and I wanted to converse with them, as you say, call it a galactic conversation. I like that. I'm going to steal it. Thank you.
You're going to steal that? No, darling,
yes.
we all have to live our human lives. So, but let me tell people that don't know about Kosta and haven't seen the work that he's doing. I've got his bio here, and this will give you a little clue about what Kosta's up to. Kosta Makreas is the founder of ETLetsTalk. The ETLetsTalk Community, the People's Disclosure Movement, the People's Love Alliance, and the Global CE5 Initiative, just to name a few. Kosta is an international networker and creative artist working towards harmonious relations between all life forms in the cosmos. Born in Indiana in 1953, Kosta has been dedicated to spiritual activities since he was a teenager. He earned a BA in computer science from Indiana University in 1977, which led to a successful 4-decade software consulting career in Silicon Valley. As a young man, Kosta became fascinated with the mysteries of the universe, teaching himself astrology, meditation, astronomy, and reading many books on UFOs and comparative religion, science fiction, spirituality, Atlantis, and other metaphysical topics. Today, his passion and mission is his website, ETLetsTalk.com, and the community attached to it, where people learn how to make human initiated interactive contact with the Star Nation people. Kosta also founded and facilitates the People's Disclosure Movement, which boasts around 650,000 plus members in over 100 countries across the globe. It is the largest, most widespread movement of its kind, bypassing governments and authoritarian power structures, empowering everyday people to interact directly with the Star Nation beings to co-create a positive future for planet Earth. Kosta believes we are living in a unique, challenging, and wonderful point in human history as we transition to a new mode of enlightenment and spiritual living where peace will reign on Earth as we connect with other life forms throughout the cosmos. Only doing a couple of things, Darwin, one.
That was so thorough. Thank you very much, Karen. I actually sound like an interesting person. I might want to meet myself someday and have a chat over some tea or something. But
Kosta.
You said that and with such enthusiasm, it's like, hey, yeah, who is this guy? You know, thank you.
I'm getting good at reading bios out. I've done a few.
Yeah, I know. When I do interviews, you want to sound like you're speaking it and enunciating and all that, but yet you know you're reading it. So you don't want to sound like you're reading it. You right. Did just fine. That was now, one for the record books.
I love that you were this kid, you know, this kid fascinated in sci-fi and all the mysteries of the world. But then you went on to lead a very normal human life. As I said, we all have to have our human lives. And then something happened to like reawaken the passion in you. So let's hear about what happened.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, I had a conventional life. The thing that set me up, though, was around the age of 10, in addition to my interest in astronomy with a telescope and science fiction and in the NASA moonshots of the time, because this was the early 60s and the 70s. And so I'm a creature, I'm a child of those times. So my eyes were always on the stars. But as you said, I led a very conventional life, came out to the West Coast here in the San Francisco Bay Area, married, had children, divorced, got remarried. And then in 2006, it changed because the UFO books I had read as a child and had kind of put aside, even though I had been smitten by what had been shown in the photographs, because these were produced by the contactee movement of the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. And yet I had set them aside, like you said, and led a conventional life. But in 2006, I got on the internet and I discovered that there were people making human-initiated contact with UFOs. And this opened me up, and I wanted to go join a group of people like that and learn what is called the Protocol for Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, CE5, using consciousness, meditation, coherent thought by yourself or with a group. And in that way, connecting telepathically and in lots of other ways, I found out, with many of the star nations that are visiting the planet. So in 2006, during a week's time, I had 3 different experiences that were up close and personal. You know, they were not someone else's story. Even people that I trusted, who I knew during the course of my life, had close encounters with craft that flew over their cars and other things like that. So that I believed them. But I like to say that until you have your own experience, you will transform from being a believer into a knower. And that is a whole nother game when you become that knower. And so during that week that I mentioned, I had three knower experiences that changed the course of my life and led to me wanting to teach other people how to do what I had just been taught. Because I like to say I'm nobody special in terms of I'm an everyday person who just has this fascinating interest, but I'm not the only one. And if I could learn how to make the contact that led to these amazing encounters, then I knew that other people could. And having been an activist in my youth, spiritual, political, there's another word there I forgot, but I'd been an activist and an organizer. So it was really natural for me, after having my own experiences, to start organizing people on the internet to teach them how to make their own contact and to create a community so they could share their stories and kind of come out of the ET closet, because so many people over many years had not felt comfortable relating the experiences of contacts that they had. Believe me, then there are millions of people, as I began to discover getting on the internet and talking to folks who were just happy to find a community where they could openly share their stories and learn from other people, and finally, kind of, like I said, come out of the ET closet, get it off their chest, and understand that they're not crazy anymore, and they're not being the black sheep in a family, or unable to talk to a partner or a colleague or a coworker. But suddenly there's this community, and that's what I've been building for the last 15 years that you were talking about there, the ETLetsTalk Community, which is part of the People's Disclosure Movement, which we did another count, and actually we're up to 1 million people now or more. That's 1 million all over the planet who are interested and working on the people's disclosure. And I can talk more about that in detail as we go on, why this movement is so very special at this time.
Wow, yeah.
So that's the long story about why I got on this road. I had my own experience. And like I say, when you have your own experience and you internalize it, you either want to get on a rooftop and shout it to everybody,
yeah,
or if you have to, you bury it because it's not safe in some manner to speak up, or you want to find one-on-one a group of people that you can start sharing with. And so the ETLetsTalk Community is that group of friends all over the planet now who are doing that kind of sharing
that you can share it with. Yeah, I want to hear about we want to hear about your experiences, but is it connected in any way to Stephen Greer? Because he's got the same sort of initiative going on. Are you connected in any way to Stephen?
I once worked with him for a few years, many years ago, but I formed ETLetsTalk on my own in 2012. So we're an independent organization, not connected with him at all. However, he and so many others have created their own networks of contact. So the large umbrella that we call CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, all that really means is it's human initiated interactive contact where you talk back and forth or communicate in some other way. And there are different ways to get to it. I publish a set of protocols, 7 steps on my website that people can follow. And yet other people in other networks also will take those 7 steps or have some of their own, and they will customize things. Yeah. So there are many groups and many networks within networks across the planet who are making this contact. What I like to say that, Karen, at the core of it is if you have an open heart, an open mind, loving intentions, peace and goodwill towards our visitors, that's what raises your vibration. It's about the love. And the ones that you want to contact are advanced enough, they will detect your high vibrations, your frequency, Absolutely. Your love, and they will be able to meet you and interact with you in a lot of ways.
It's been put in a separate category, like, oh, you have to do this protocol in order to contact ET. But really, it's the same protocol as any spiritual awakening or spiritual ascension or just human evolution. It's just tuning into the vibration of your heart, getting rid of your negative thought forms and raising your vibration. And then once you do that, you've got access to anything. You've got access to anything. You've got access to the spirit guides, to the cosmos, to the ascended masters, to the ETs. But we have to, get out of the density of human fear in order to really access their vibration, because they vibe at a higher vibe.
Yep.
Let's get into your contact experience. Like, what happened?
All right. During that week, and this was in Mount Shasta, which is in Northern California, about a 4-hour drive from the San Francisco Bay Area. When I discovered that there was a group up there that was meeting physically and getting together in meditation to do this new CE5 thing that most of us had never heard of, and making contact, because of my background in science fiction as a kid and being interested in astronomy, I thought, oh man, I want to be a part of this. I want to see some UFOs and meet some star people and all that. But interestingly enough, I also went with fear, because the Hollywood movies that sadly continue to be made and had been made were always about threat and attack, invasion. And so part of me, they had grabbed my reptilian brain back there. So, and I'm not the only one. I hear this a lot. there's that fear like, oh God, what's really out there? Will they eat me? Will they beat me up? Will they abduct me and take me somewhere and I'm never to be seen again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I went with a little bit of that, but I talked to my wife about it, who's a very reasonable person. And she said, go and have fun. And I said, why don't you come with me? She said, well, I can't. I have a couple businesses to run. I believe they're out there. This is a huge universe. And yes, I believe they're here, but I don't see what they have to do with my everyday life. I got bills to pay and clients and things like that. So I went for those days. And that's I'm mentioning all this by way of setting up what happened in the different experiences. For one thing, I was talking to my wife every morning, and in a very excited way, I was telling her what had happened the night before, because we were learning how to make contact. We were learning how to identify what are the satellites, what are the planes, what are the stars and planets, and eliminate them, because we were looking for the anomalies, the zigzagging lights, the ones that pulsed up, that as we pointed at them and answered us, we were getting those effects. And I was talking to my wife, Hollis, every morning and telling her about the previous night, really excited, like a fifth grader. Along about, I think maybe the fourth or fifth morning, just as I was starting to tell her, what had happened the night before, she says, stop, there's something I want to tell you. And I go to myself, what could be more exciting than what I saw? But go ahead. Oh boy. Long story short, here at our home, she had just gone to bed, turned out the lights in the bedroom. Now you have to understand, my wife is a professional clairvoyant. She has internal clairvoyant sight, but not external. And what I'm about to describe really was seen with her physical eyes. And she also has good night vision, so she didn't need a light, just eyes like a bat. So she's getting ready to scooch down, like she puts it, in bed, and then looks at the foot of the bed. And right there at the foot of the bed, there are 4, maybe 5 translucent, 3.5, 4 foot tall figures standing there with big heads, almond eyes, maybe a little bit of a mouth, bipedal, skinny neck, arms. And she couldn't see like below the waist of them because the edge of the bed was hiding them. So they were standing like in a very physical way. We don't think this was a hologram because they were vibrating at the same rate as the bed was, since it was hiding them, if that makes any sense. Anyway, there they were. And she says she was shocked, not afraid, because waves of love were just coming off of them. And as she says, how can you be afraid of love? They're like polar opposites. But she couldn't say anything. And then what they said to her telepathically in a sing-song voice was, who are you? Who are you? Now, we theorized that they had found me up in Mount Shasta with all the activity going on. And because of my connection with her, probably followed my thoughts, my energy signature back to the other end. Like, where's this guy sending all this energy every day? Let's follow it. We've got some time. And we kind of believe that that's how they found her there. So eventually she thought I should say something to them. I should ask them something. And she said, where are you from? Telepathically. And today she claims that a better question would have been, how did you get here? Because she'd been a civil engineer and an MBA at Harvard and all that, and had her left brain working. And as a scientist and a business person, it's like, how'd you get here? Can you teach me? But she didn't ask that. And again, in a sing-song fashion, telepathically, they said to her, Arcturus. And she says to me, Kosta, is Arcturus a place? Now, you have to understand, she had been a NASA geek when she was a kid with a scrapbook and all the moonshots, but didn't really know much about astronomy. And so when she said, is Arcturus a place? I said, yes, it's a hyper red giant in a constellation, I think is pronounced Butes. It's kind of like Astronomy 101. Yeah, it's a star system. So it's a thing. And then to my delight, she says, wow, they were here and then they just faded out after they told me that. Just faded into the darkness, and she just went to sleep after that. And then she says to me, again, to my delight, now it's personal. I can see what they have to do with my life. And next year I'm coming with you. So that was one story right there that neither of us expected.
I just want to pose another perspective on what they said.
Okay.
Because as you're talking, I'm having a chat with the mob. And she identified them as greys, which is really interesting because people are saying, oh, greys come from Zeta Reticuli. And some people say, oh, the greys come from the Pleiades. And then now you're saying they said they were from Arcturus. So that looks like the greys are like all over the place, right? But when they said, who are you? I don't think that they were asking because they wanted to know. I think they were asking because they wanted her to have that question, who am I?
Oh, you know what? I'll mention that to her.
Yeah.
Because it's another way to frame that.
Right. Who are you? Who are you really? Because what you said to me was, she said, I'm not interested. I've got bills to pay. I've got stuff to do. You go off, darling, and have a lovely time. I'm just going to stay human and do my human thing. And now they're posing the question, who are you?
Well, if it's framed that way, and instead of answering it, actually she did answer it, I think, because when she said it is personal now, something in her changed,
right,
where her identity, as like you said, as being the human who's got the bills to pay, who's leading this very left brain life,
right,
suddenly something shifted for her, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And what she was telling me was, I am now going to become someone else.
Right.
I am interested in this now. That's who I am now.
So the question worked, right? Yeah.
And you know what? On interviews, and I'll do it again now, I always thank those Arcturians for having made that visit and for making it personal to her and for asking that question, who are you? So that she could launch herself in the same way I did in this integrated experience that we've had for all these years. So thanks for offering that.
Yeah, it's a question we should all ask ourselves, like, who am I?
And that's true. That's true. Am
I this personality, body, mind, personality, body complex, or am I much more than that? Maybe I'm a star seed and I'm from Arcturus and I'm here to perfect, like there's a lot to that question. And then when I asked, why did they look like greys? And I got something that Sherry Wilde's Guy Dar said. He said that this particular form is really easy to transverse the cosmos in. It's a very efficient form. And it's like a car. It's like a vehicle that the light beings can drive in as a physical form throughout the cosmos. It's a very efficient form. And I went, okay, that's why there's greys everywhere. It's a very efficient sort of suit, a physical suit. And I thought,
years later, at a small conference, Hollis and I met Clifford Stone, the late Clifford Stone, a very beloved, beautiful man who has been like an icon in this movement. And he gave a talk there, and we got a chance to meet him just for a few minutes, the only time we ever met him. But he produced, after we told this story, he produced a painting that someone had given to him to bring to that conference, which he never used it. But he said, you know what? I think I had brought it for you, Hollis. And it was a picture painted by some artist that gifted it to him. And it was the very person with better detail and a little bit more filled in than what she had seen. But she goes, that's who was there. And he said, we call those. Now remember, for people who don't know, he used to be someone on the scene. His day job was, I think, as a clerk, but actually he was the first person whenever there was a crash of a UFO, or maybe they were shot down or something. But he knew a lot about all the different races. He even had a manual, apparently, that could identify who he's looking at or dealing with. So when he said, I brought this painting for you, he says, we call these type 2 grays.
Type 2.
And type 2. And that's all I know about it. I never had a chance to, to talk more with him and say, well, what did you know? Or who are they? Whatever.
Well,
But
he's
that,
listening into this conversation, Costa, and he says, talk to me anytime. I'll tell you everything. I've got much more access. You can talk to him anytime.
oh, he is saying that?
Yeah, you and Hollis. Yeah, he's available. He's left his body, but he hasn't left this world. He's still very involved in what you're doing and what's going on. But let's continue this conversation.
Thank you, Pepper.
Yeah, he's here. He's chatting away.
Thank you.
Let's continue the conversation. What were your experiences?
Okay, the one that really blew my mind and is the reason that we're having this conversation, and that the last 16 years of my life have been nothing but like what I had planned in the first 16 years of my life, in a very, very good way. Here's what happened. One of the nights after our group finished our Skywatch and had our usual good experiences in the sky communication, most people got in their cars and drove away from the secluded site at the foot of Mount Shasta where we had done our contact. Most people drove away and went back to the hotels, to go to sleep, and tomorrow's another day, right? But about 9 of us still stood around in this clearing, and we're talking about what we had seen. And then someone tugs on my shoulder and points over to my right at the edge of the clearing where the trees started. And suddenly this sphere, I want to say about 3 feet in diameter, starts materializing out of thin air. And it's one of those things where you rub your eyes and you go, is this a trick of the moonlight? Because the moon was just rising. What is it? But as I watched it, it became more and more solid. It was floating a few inches off the ground. There was no noise. And again, it was a sphere. And to my eyes, it was opaque. It was like a gray, couldn't see into it. But there it was materializing. And for a second, I thought, I could walk over 6 feet away, 7 feet away. I could touch this and just prove to myself, being a human being, hey, are you real? I want to knock on the door or whatever. And then something told me, don't do that. You don't know what kind of energy you're dealing with, and you don't want to be a guinea pig for everybody else. So anyway, I kept my distance, but for the next half hour, we watched it sitting there. One of the people in the group, after a couple minutes, suddenly announced to the rest of us, hey, I just got a telepathic message from the beings who are inside this. And by the way, we don't think this 3-foot thing is the whole ship. That's maybe the only part that materialized that we could see. But what they told him was they are scientists, and they're here on Earth, and they're researching and studying the human energy system. So that made sense to me as this person said that. If I'm to believe this, and there it is in front of me, they're doing a field study. It's their PhD thesis. We're the lab rats, I guess, trying to be funny about it. But they're studying us. It's the same thing that we humans do when we go explore. So that was all very logical. Now, here's the really, really cool part. Standing next to me was a woman I'll call Gloria, who had become a friend over the few days that our group was meeting. Very good psychic person and a wonderful person. And I look to my right as we're standing around with this sphere there just floating, and we're talking in hushed tones. And Gloria is standing there, and I don't know if I can show this, but very stiff as a board with her arms out like this at right angles and not moving at all. I go, that's weird. You don't stand like this. And she wasn't saying anything. And I thought, okay, something's going on with her. I'm not going to interrupt it, but I'm going to stay right here in case she shows any signs of distress. They'll be right here. And eventually she got a little wobbly, and I steadied her on the shoulders and I said, Gloria, how many fingers? What's your name? Do you know where you are? Kind of thing. And she said, I'm okay. I'm just a little disoriented. And I asked her, well, okay, what happened? It's been like a half an hour you've been standing there, And she said that one of the beings from inside that craft had approached her psychically, mentally, telepathically, and asked her, may I merge with you and study your system? So this was very consistent with what we were told, that they were actually trying to do an experiment. And probably because she was a psychic person and very open, she was easy to approach. And so the being asked her, may I merge with you? And boy, to her credit, instead of running away with her hair on fire, to her car, which, other people would have done, maybe myself included. Instead, she negotiated with this scientist and said, yeah, you may, but I have 3 conditions. The first condition is that I remain aware of my surroundings. I don't want to be unconscious and just not know anything. And the being said to her, I agree. Okay. Her second condition was, when I say you leave, you disengage, you leave. I'm like sovereign in my space. When I want you out, you leave. And the being agreed to that. And the third thing she said was, no messing around with the sexual equipment. I don't want any probing in areas. And the being agreed to that. And she was very firm about that. So during that half hour, unbeknownst to the rest of us, what was going on, because all this was mental with her, was this being had agreed to those conditions, and they were running their experiments, whatever they were doing with their aura and her energy bodies and whatever. And finally, when she was a little bit wobbly, was the point at which she said to this scientist, I'm done, go. And the scientist left. And just a little bit after that, the sphere started dematerializing, faded into the background, just like in the movies, and it was gone. And that's her story. And that's my story, because this was not my wife's experience, even though I believed her. This was something I saw with my own eyes, heard with my own ears. And it happened in a way that didn't freak me out. It was very gentle in the company of other people. Nothing dramatic about it, no great noise, no drama, whatever. And then it was just gone. And I realized that all the physics that I had been taught in my left brain career had just been violated. What I just experienced the last half hour wasn't supposed to be possible. And yet myself and 9 other people saw it. So this is what thinking out of the box is like. When your world gets blown open, you go, okay, I now can see this is possible. It's real. If it happened once, this must be happening all over the universe. Right. I don't know how they got here. I want more of this, is what I said. Right. And I decided to organize people on the internet to have these kinds of experiences as well. Wow.
Yeah, all the physics I'd learned been violated. I love that.
It's a good thing I'm a little adaptable, because if I
my level of understanding has just exploded. It's been violated. Yeah, exactly. Wow, they've got so much to teach us. So I don't know if you mentioned this. I might not have heard it, but did they say where they were from? This group that were
no. Nobody asked.
Nobody asked.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yes. Well, that kind of goes into that conversation we're having about, these physical and energetic forms that we wear are so intricate and delicate and beautiful, and just the human body is amazing. It's amazing.
Truly is.
And this is something that woke me up spiritually when I was studying as a naturopath years ago. When I was learning the physiology of the human body, just like that scientist, like, how does this thing work? I just kept thinking, who designed this? Like, who created this? And so here I was, sort of an agnostic that didn't sort of come at the God that religion had presented us. But yet I was asking this question, who, what intelligence? And religion would say it was God. But, God comes in many forms, like in infinite forms and infinite levels of intelligence. So, yeah, who designed this? So I could imagine the scientists from another world would like, wow, how does this thing work? I could imagine they'd really want to know.
Yeah, that's true. And in a larger sense, this is why in our community we want to establish relationships with these star nations, civilizations, what they could teach us, not just in terms of science or in healing, technologies that would help us bring a golden age on Earth, which is part of what I'm working for as well. But also spiritually, because this really is a journey to the self, to the, and I won't get into religion or anything, but to the largest thing that we can imagine, like the universe. What is really at the core? What is the creator? We are all one. This is what I think they have to teach us,
Yeah.
because they've been down or are still going down that road. So yeah, we can exchange technologies, but there's also the spiritual technology.
Yeah.
What can we learn from each other as we make our contact and bring the day someday, which will be full open contact right here in 3D Earth and then some that we're all working towards.
The more I quiz people over the years about all sorts of ideas and levels of consciousness, the more I understand, as we raise your level of awareness and consciousness, like ET forms that are at a higher level of consciousness and intelligence than humans, they all have the same idea about the one infinite creator. You know, there's not different ideas about who God is like there is on earth. They all seem to tap into that one understanding, that there is.
Well, I love the phrase we are one. I mean, that basically is my religion, my spirituality.
Yeah.
As simple as it sounds, so much can flow out of that.
Right.
Because if we're all one, and if I truly practice self-love, well, as I'm practicing self-love, this body here, if really everything is enfolded within me and we are all one, then basically by loving myself, I am loving all of creation,
Right.
all of dimensions infinitely. And that is, I think, one of the greatest gifts anybody can give is it's to find that heart there and bless the whole universe with this instrument right here. I'm not sure if it's showing, but we all know where it is. So
for those listening on audio, he's pointing at his body. Yes. And, you know, it occurs to me that when they were asking about the physical human form, I was wondering, because there are many ETs that have physical human forms, like, you know, the Palladians are depicted as these tall blonde dudes, and other Venusians and stuff like that are usually taller than humans, usually taller, and they're depicted and in artistry online as being buffed and very fit. I wonder if they allow other life forms to study their human system. I wonder. What do you think, Kosta?
I would think if they're I would think so, yes. I mean, if I were them, I would not feel threatened by that. In fact, I would be more concerned about the other life form. In order to study who I am, whatever it is they have to do that, as long as it's not a threat to them. You know, in other words, if I'm of a race that has a certain high vibration, and a being that's at another vibration wants to study me, well, they have to kind of raise their own vibration to meet me where I am, or at least meet halfway. So in that process, I don't see anything wrong with us getting to know each other.
Yeah.
In fact, early on, when I started making my contacts with my star teachers,
well,
what
this
they
was
told
the next question. Do you have contact with your own star family? Yeah. Yeah, you do.
I do.
So
I
how
do.
did that happen?
Well, mostly through telepathy of my own, but through the help of people like yourself, my wife and other trusted friends who are better telepaths than I am and better channelers than I am. So they provide a means for me to have conversations when the more limited ability that I have is not enough. Because if you're me, you always have a lot of questions about what's going on Earth. What about this? What about that? And I'm not good enough yet to get the flow of all the information that I know must be there. And so people like yourself, like my wife and other friends, talking to you out there, Debs, you know who you are, and others, provide that. And we have a great time getting to know each other, the star visitors and ourselves. And what they said in 2010 was, when I asked them, you know, I'm an organizer and I've had these great experiences that happened to me 4 years ago in 2006, what I was just describing now. I want to organize more people using the internet to do this, organize them once a month to get together and build a group field and a network. We may never physically meet, but over time, month after month, we can build this group field that's of welcome and of invitation to our star friends. And so I asked my star friends then, is this of any use to you? I don't know what your bigger plans are as you approach humanity. And I have a day job, and if I'm going to take on another little project in the evenings, I'd like to know that it's going to be of help somewhere in your plans. And the response I got was absolutely.
Yeah.
And they asked something very simple. They asked, create as many ET contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible, because that gives us human permission to appear in a lot more cities around the planet. And as we do that, more humans will see us, interact with us, and that will give us even more permission to appear in more places where even more humans will see us, interact with us, and give us more permission. And they call this a virtuous circle. And it would grow organically that way. And so that made sense to me, very logically, something that I could do. And I asked them, well, what's the point? We can keep growing like that. And they said, well, someday there will be so many people around the planet who have seen us in such volume that a tipping point will be reached. And after that tipping point, there will be no government, no institution of authority that can ever cover up our existence anymore.
Right.
And I said, that is amazing. I want to be part of that. And that's what I call the People's Disclosure Movement, which was born then, which is us doing the disclosure, not waiting for the government or a prime minister or a premier to make that announcement.
Yeah.
And taking our power back, making our own contact, teaching someone else, forming our own groups, and growing our own movement. And that's where we are now. We're more than 1 million people in more than 100 countries.
Amazing.
And what they told me recently was 2019, 2 years ago, is when we achieved that tipping point.
Wow.
We actually achieved it. It took us 9 years from 2010 to 2019. And in fact, they said our CE5, our Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind movement now, they gave me a picture, which is, think of it as a snowball rolling downhill. It is unstoppable.
Yeah.
So in that way, we are the wave of the future. We own the future, the People's Disclosure Movement. The authorities who lied to us, covered it up, they may own the past 70 years that this cover-up's been going on. But in 2019, that's changed. Now we own the future, we the people in our millions, and we're getting it done.
I love that, Kosta. We own the future. The government owns the past, but the people own the future. That's a powerful, makes me want to cry. That's a powerful message, because I'm in Australia, as you know, and there's a lot of stuff going on in Australia. And I don't see it, people are like, poor Australians, pray for Australia, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of see it like, the Australian spirit is so resilient that as the control drama unfolds down here, I think the world is watching how Australians are dealing with it and seeing the courage and the resilient spirit of the people. That is a message to the rest of the world. Don't be controlled or deluded by who you have put in your powers of what you think are your governing powers. Take back your power. Take back your power. We own the future. Like you say, we own the future. Oh, it makes me want to cry. So one of the questions I jotted down this morning was, what do you feel their message is to us in these turbulent times on Earth? The ET model.
It's very clear. It's to create the future that we want.
Yeah.
They're here out of concern for us, and we can make a list of the 10 different ways we can destroy life as we know it on this planet.
Right.
We know environmentally, nuclear, whatever. Although I will say they will not allow nuclear war to happen.
Yeah.
And that does not scare me. Because I know they have intervened before, and they told us they'll do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not in the books. However, ecological catastrophe and other things, we could end stuff, or we can thrive. And so their message to us is to choose the thrive part. We are the creators. And as someone who you teach people to be deliberate creators, your message totally resonates with what our star friends are saying. And by the way, they've told us And this kind of fits in with your question. Do not think of them. Do not think of us, they said, as gods. That doesn't work for human beings.
Yeah.
To throw those labels. Instead, they said, think of us as family. We are elder brothers, sisters, and cousins.
Right.
And so in the same way you would ask an older, more experienced cousin or brother or sister for advice when you hit a wall, you can't answer a question, you need some kind of help or therapy, whatever, you turn to them. And they said, turn to us in that way. We can be mentors and co-create with you. We won't solve your problems for you because that's your spiritual growth as humans. Right human relations are what you have to establish, sharing. Let love be your guide. But we're here hand in hand with you to do all of it. As a matter of fact, in 2019, they also said that because of that tipping point where their existence can't be covered up anymore, they also said the prime directive was removed. And that means that they are allowed now to, and the word is not interfere, but to assist us way more deeply than they were before.
Okay, just say that again. When was the prime collective?
The prime directive
removed?
Was removed in 2019 for them. Mm-hmm. Up until then, in a very limited way, were they allowed to alter things in the course of our civilization. If you're a Star Trek fan, then you know what that is. You visit a planet as a superior life form, and you watch the locals down there just doing crazy stuff.
Yeah.
The prime directive is you don't interfere because it's their evolution.
Yeah.
With the exception of nuclear war, they would not allow that to happen. But that prime directive now has gone, which means and we still have to request, because it's our free will as a human being in the human species, if we request their help, let's say cleaning up chemtrails or cleaning up radiation from Fukushima and on and on, they are allowed now to come a lot closer and work with us. It's not interference, it's co-creation. It's assistance.
Co-creation. Yeah, wow. Well, you've just answered a question I had jotted down this morning. How do you feel that they're helping us? You just answered it. Okay, I'm going to pose this question to you. I've been contemplating whether I would or not publicly on camera, but I'm going to. So I was watching something on Stephen Greer was yakking about on Facebook, I think, and I popped in a bit of a comment. So he's been talking about the false flag, happening where the government's going to roll out the evil aliens, and now we're not fighting a pandemic, now we're fighting the evil aliens. I don't know what he calls it, but he's made a whole documentary about it. And I'm thinking, if you're an enlightened human being, you understand that what you focus on, you create, right? Where you put your attention, where attention goes, energy flows, if you're an enlightened human being. So I put a comment in and said, you're a part of the creation of this thing because you keep talking about it. You've raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a documentary about it. You keep yakking on about it. By disclosing it, you're creating it. So anyway, someone saw that question I put in the comments and rang me, someone that I'd had on the show. And he had an idea that Stephen Greer was, in his words, working for the dark side or something like that. And I had never contemplated that because he's doing amazing work in disclosure. What are your thoughts on that, Kosta?
It's a mixed bag. I think that what he offered up with CE5 in the beginning opened up a lot of people, right. And that was the plan. So a lot of good has been done by that, so that we take back our power, like I've been talking about, and do this disclosure ourselves. That part is good. But to your point and to your comment, I asked my star people folks, my friends, my family, that very same thing. Really? And their response was what your response was. What you focus on, you create. And they said, pay no attention to the cosmic hoax thing, basically. Right. I mean, that sounds severe. It's like, oh, if we put our heads in the sand, then maybe we're just allowing them to do that, right? No, we let them stay in their little reality, but we supersede it with what we want to create. And there are enough of us now who, if we choose to create a world where that doesn't happen, but instead we move towards a golden age, those who are in power that want to control us somehow get neutralized and lose their power. And in fact, we take our power and we create the civilization we want. That's at the edge that we stand at right now. And my star friend said, what you focus on, you create. Very simple. So I stopped focusing on the hoax. I'm not saying that someone back there in the back rooms had those plans. Of course, there are people who have done and are doing dastardly things.
Yeah.
That's part of being human. But we don't have to give them any power.
Right.
We're aware that they're there, but really where our power is now is to create the future, to feel it, to imagine what a world without hunger is like,
Right.
where wars cease, where there's ecological balance, where animals start becoming telepathic with us and we start new relationships, where the diseases that have torn us apart and killed us get neutralized, and where our cosmic families return. I mean, it can go on and on. Free energy, there's no lack of positive things you can think about that you want to create in this world versus what we've seen. So that's what the People's Love Alliance is about, by the way. My star friend said that there are 1 billion hearts that have achieved the awakening of the heart on the planet. And by that, they mean their heart has opened up just enough that they can start thinking of the other. It's not just service to self, but, the box is cracked open, the light is coming in, or it's flooding in, because we're all at a lot of different levels. But they say that at least 1 billion out of the 7.5, maybe close to 8 billion people on the planet now are ready and have awakened in the heart. So the People's Love Alliance is all about acknowledging that we've got that power, because we're conscious co-creators. We're not just billiard balls just bouncing around on a table. We have intention and purpose and power and organization. And that's why Good News Every Day is a group that some friends and I created on Facebook, for example, which publishes posts of good things that people are doing. And I know there's many other groups doing this, and we're getting to find each other, because the mass media only reflects the fear, the cosmic hoax, the things that are going bad that we are aware of, but we're aware enough about them to say, I don't like that. We can do better. I'm going to do something to change it. And that's where I'm going to put my focus, is on changing it. So the Good News Everyday group is where we find evidence that the People's Love Alliance, that all these hearts are opening. And you can read posts there of people bringing water to a village in the other side of the world, or doing some campaign to right a wrong, or to bring equal rights to other people. I mean, it just spans, there's a lot of problems humans have, and a lot of the solutions are out there, and there are acts of kindness and compassion that so many people are doing, but the media doesn't reflect that. And it's about time that we all start telling each other, television, instead of watching the television, which is just telling us fear, fire, earthquake, greed, hate, division. Haven't we had enough of that?
Yeah. Where focus goes, energy flows. That's why I went on media 12 years ago. My guide said, put your face up on YouTube, and I wasn't ready for that. I was too self-critical or shy or whatever, or limiting idea I had about myself at the time. So I went on radio, community radio, to try and pump out some more empowered messages. It was more, and that's why I called the show Accentuate the Positive, because that was sort of something that the mainstream mind can sort of wrap its head around, rather than conscious creating or something like that. You know what I mean? And interestingly enough, over the years, now that I'm just podcasting, have done for years, I thought about changing the name, because I had come up with that name to sort of to talk to a mainstream mind. But I thought, no, the name's perfect. It's still perfect. Accentuating the positive doesn't mean be positive. It says, inside your drama, what can you find and accentuate that's good about this? What are you learning about yourself? And it's a brilliant name. It's a brilliant name. But
I would not change it. I'm glad you didn't change it. I think it is perfect. Yeah.
What I'm seeing, Kosta, it's a conversation I've been having for a long time. that most people don't want to listen to. But because of what we're going through in our world now, and because of the dramas people are facing, they're actually starting to listen more. What I'm seeing, though, is that, especially in Australia, well, it's probably around the world, lots of podcast shows and people rising up who are talking about the corruption, like the corruption is being revealed and everyone wants to talk about it. And it's, again, that same thing, like, they just repeatedly, like, look at the terrible police, harming the people, and look at the corruption of the politicians, and look at how they're locking us down, and look at how people are losing their jobs and people are committing suicide. And it's this conversation that's just being repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated, and they don't understand the power of their focus. So as we keep talking about that, we keep Marina, I always give this to Marina Jacobi says, we reprint it. We reprint the net, as we speak about something and feel it, we're just recreating it, reprinting it. And so this power of focus is a very important conversation to spread amongst humanity.
And think about it, it's one of the easiest things we can do, because you don't need, the barrier to entry is very low. You don't need a lot of money, a lot of resources. All you have to do is sit down and change your thoughts.
Right.
And admittedly, if you've ever tried to meditate, even that can seem hard sometimes because your thoughts bounce around, but still it's easy if you take the time out of your day and stay with your thoughts and start accentuating, as you say, the positive ones, and build that a little bit every day, day after day after day. You will become a force for good, a stream, a river.
Yeah, exactly. You'll become, we'll take back the future. As you said, we own the future. Yeah, a force of power. The song Accentuate the Positive was an old gospel song that they used to sing in church back in the 1920s, I think.
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah. And a telco in Australia many years ago had taken it and jazzed it up. It had become a bit of a jazz song, and they used it on an ad on television, and everyone was singing it. You gotta accentuate the positive. And people were singing it because of this ad on television. And I thought, oh, that is so cool. Yeah. So it is a message that was sort of spread in church originally.
Love it. Love it. And there's nothing like music, right? To really open people up and get them, get an earworm, right? Yeah. We all get those earworms of songs. And It's nice when a good one like that, if it's got to repeat, I'd rather have one of those than something of a lower vibration. Instead
of that song, what about me? It isn't fair. There's a song.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. There's a lot of victim songs out there.
There's a lot of victim songs out there. So you're of Greek descent, right? Kosta, right. The Greek name. And you probably had really black hair when you were young, right?
Totally.
And now you've got this really white hair. I'm thinking about you. You've kind of gone from the black to the white.
Yes, I have.
I'm thinking you wear your hair long. Yeah, I'm thinking, do you think that you've had like Palladian lives? You're sort of looking more like your ET self.
That did occur to me because people put that thought in my mind. I don't know the answer to that. All I can say is I'm 68, and I never would have expected to have a full head of hair at.
Wow, 68, yeah.
I've never done anything special. I mean, I've always tried to use natural shampoo all my life, without a lot of additives and chemicals. But aside from that, never done anything special. And to my delight and surprise, I'm able to do this, and I could still keep growing it long. When I was a young man, I did have hair down to here, but like you say, it was black. It was a style then too in the 70s. The hippie. I had the headband and the tie-dye shirt, the bell bottoms. I was part of the young counterculture, right?
Yeah.
So as I approached my older age and I noticed my hair wasn't going away, I'll go, I want to grow it long. I just want to see if I can do this, right? I'm not trying to prove anything or be someone I'm not, whatever. I just want to know, is this going to stop? And it's still here. So thank you. I'll take it.
You're lucky to be a man and still have hair. At any age. God, I know boys that have hair going bald in their 20s and 30s. Okay, before we go, the vision of the future. Have your ET guides or other people's ET guides given you any vision of what the future can look like? Like, let's paint a picture of what the vision could look like for people listening so that they can focus on that instead of focusing on, the now, which is actually a creation. What's happening now is a creation of the thinking of the past. And as we focus on a vision of the future, we reprint that and restamp that and create that. What do you think it looks like, Kosta?
Well, they have taught me things that I'm aspiring to, and it starts with the fact that we are one. Now, if you're really living in a state of consciousness where you are that, you cannot hate, you cannot divide, you accept the multiplicity of forms of things you see, but you know that you're one with them. So what they tell me is there's a state of harmony and love and unity that we need to strive towards. And I think only in my highest moments, maybe of listening to elevating music, can I even approach what it must be like to be in a permanent state of that kind of harmony. But that's what they talk about, and we're so used to the wars and the divisions and there not being enough for everybody. The world that they hold out is one where all your needs are taken care of. You're living in right human relations with all forms of life, the animal kingdom, the angels and all that. And we actually practice being one, and we have infinity in which to play. Imagine an infinite play box. And that's what excites me, because when they say you are creators, they literally mean it. We have all of eternity, or the eternal now, to create in every dimension we can conceive of, and delight in what we create. And we do it out of harmony, not out of desperation or need or any other reason. So yeah, it sounds like a real cliche, but how's what we got working for us is there's so many people who are not happy with what there is here. So we might as well visualize something that works at the very basis of. You start with human relationships. Imagine all of us getting along. I mean, right there, isn't that the toughest thing right now? There's divisions all over the world. Human beings getting along, not getting along causes other problems like wars, like famine, hunger, beating down the other person so that you can be greater than, and on and on. So this sense of separation where you're superior to someone else and separate from them, a lot of evil, and I call it that, comes from that. So I want to get to a future in a state where this sense of separation, is gone, and we really do revel in our oneness. And I can't tell you what really, I can't even imagine probably the gifts that will come out of that. But I sure would like to try, to be in that state of mind and to be with others who, are doing the same thing. And that's why I say what we're working towards is a golden age on Earth. Mm-hmm. It's not just about, well, let's see how many lights in the sky we can see. Let's count all the UFO experiences we're having. No, that the real reason at the core of it is, let's bring them here. Let's establish peace on Earth. Let's co-create together, and we'll go to the stars and reach other civilizations. So we have an incredible future ahead of us of exploration, of creativity, of harmony. And what's nice is we have those who've come before us, our star friends, who have trod this road, who are here to help. So we're not alone. Never have been.
We've never been alone. Yeah, I think that the most important system that needs renovation on planet Earth is our consciousness first, number one priority. And once everyone raises their consciousness or renovates their consciousness, gets out of the hate and the fear and the divide and the judgment, then Earth will change very quickly. But that's the work that we're up for, is renovating people's consciousness or raising people's consciousness. Somebody asked me in a session yesterday, day before, when do you think the golden age on Earth is going to land? Because there's a lot of talk out there that there's going to be some big explosion and then bang, we're all living in the fifth dimension, as if it's going to happen in our lifetime. And the guide said, that's not going to happen in our lifetime. There is a lot of work to do to change human consciousness, a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do. So I can't see us all exploding into love and light in 10 years. Can you?
No, I honestly can't. There was a time when I did imagine that, but as I've watched it and I've been told this is a process.
Yeah.
And it begins in every moment. If you decide that every moment's going to be better than the last one, that you're going to keep improving. And if a lot of other people do that along with you, our multiplied, our synergized power is unbelievable. And we can have a lot of miraculous things happen.
Yeah.
Overnight, I don't believe that. I know people have been talking about an event.
Yeah.
And things like that. And I used to be there too, but right now I'm not. I think we're still slogging through 3D. But we have a blueprint. It's called Goodwill, Right Human Relations, and Love. And we have the help of our star brothers, sisters, and cousins.
Yeah.
So it's all doable.
Yeah. And the most important message that they said to my client, when I say they, I said it, but they speak through me all the time, the mob, was that if you're resisting the now, because she had a very, I need to get out of this 3D. I'm totally over it. I'm over it. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in the fear and the control anymore. When's the explosion going to happen? And we're all living in 5D and in love and light. And they said, if you're resisting the now, then you're not going anywhere, because that very act of resisting and hating what is keeps you in 3D. You can live in 5D here in this third dimensional experience. Like you can be in 5D right now, by just loving everything and seeing all of it as happening for us and not to us, and seeing through the matrix and through the veil into the orchestration, the divine. Michael Tamura, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, said the divine choreography that's happening in this world. It's all happening for the raising of, for the shift. It's control dramas and distortion is being revealed. And instead of focusing on how bad it is, how can we focus love on it in order to transmute it? But yeah, we've got to love what is before we can go anywhere. That's number one principle of law of attraction.
You put that so well. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think I could have put that any better.
Oh, darling one. It's been beautiful. You've got a lot to say and you've got a lot of things going on. You send out many emails. You sent the PDF about the vision of the future, which people can download, and lots of groups to join. So how do people join up to all what you've got going on?
It's simple. The place to start is ETLetsTalk.com, and membership is free. And that will allow me to send you monthly announcements about our global CE5 get-togethers, our free webinars, the retreats that we hold in person in different parts of the U.S. It'll bring you the community of other people, so many other things. So the place to start is just come to ETLetsTalk.com. That's ETLetsTalk.com. Join for free and enjoy the ride after that.
Thank you so much, Kosta, for being on the show. It's been beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Loved having that conversation with Kosta. Kosta is the real deal. He really is. He really is. A while ago, I reached out to Stephen Greer to have a chat with him for the show because I really loved what he was doing. And his people got back to me and said, no, we're too busy. We're not interested. So if you don't have millions of subscribers, they're not interested in talking to you, as I've sort of said on the last show I did, And I kind of think that I'm glad that happened, actually, because I think Kosta is much more heart-centered and community-minded and more highly evolved, much more oneness-centered. And the work that he's doing is amazing. We just had a great chat, the two of us, just then, talking about what our guides have been saying to us about the work that we're doing. Because even though we don't have the millions, on our mailing lists like the other people do, and the human ego goes, why? Both his guides and my guides have said to us separately that, even when you have one conversation with someone and then they repeat that to somebody else, like they showed me how my message and my shows have spread across the world. You know, you sort of inspire one person who inspires two, inspires three, who inspire, you know, and how this collective momentum and effect happens across the world. So you don't have to necessarily be standing on a stage talking to millions. You can have a handful of people that then inspire another handful who inspire more. Yeah, it's like that movie Pay It Forward. You know that movie Pay It Forward? The concept in that. And so, and Kosta, yeah, he's doing amazing work, real deal. I was saying to him that I would like to, this year or maybe next year, get a round table together and get people that I've had on the show talking about this ET galactic connection, to have a bit of a round table and we all talk about what's going on, how we can be more highly evolved and more connected to our Star Nation people, and just get a bit of a round table happening on the internet and do it live so that you guys can interact with us and ask us questions. So I'll sort that out this year or next year, maybe at the beginning of next year, and invite some people to come on and do a live and open this conversation up. And I think I might do that for Afterlife conversation as well. I was thinking about that yesterday, invite some of the people that I've had on the show that have had near-death experiences and talking to their dead loved ones, and get a bit of a round table conversation happening, as many of the podcast shows are doing now, I've noticed. But I did it with the book when I had the book Awakened by Death, when we published it a few years back. I got the authors on and we had a bit of a group discussion, online. All right, guys, I'm not going to say too much more. I just loved that conversation with Kosta. Check out his work. He does send out a lot of emails, and for someone who's busy like me, I just don't have time to read them all. I keep thinking, I've got to get back to Kosta's email, and then another one comes in. Oh, there's another one. I've got to read that one. And I just don't get around to reading it because I've got things going on. But I think what he's doing is amazing. As many of the people I have on the show, once they've got my email, they put me on their newsletter thing, and they send me all this information that I totally don't have time to read. But I really honor what everyone is doing in the world to uplift human consciousness and shift this world into a new experience on planet Earth, a new future. There's a new world waiting if you can take it. Absolutely. We've got to hone our focus and focus on what we want and not what is happening that we don't want. So as I was looking through messages and stuff this morning before I got on the show with Kosta, I was watching someone who has a podcast show, just like I was talking about, who's like talking about all the terrible things that's happening. Although it's attracting a lot of interest and a lot of people, it is just regurgitating the terrible things that's happening. Talking about how one of our premiers in Victoria is going to take the state of emergency measures into common law, so that the power, he talks about him personally, him, Dan Andrews, the one man, has the power to mandate people and control people and lock people in, and so they're all up in arms about that. But so we can focus on that and go, oh, isn't it terrible? Isn't it terrible? Or we can say, right, what does freedom look like to me? Maybe I start my own community. Maybe I move to the country with a group of people who think and feel like me. Maybe we start our own schools. Maybe we come together in community and put our minds together about what we want to create. Don't worry about what the politicians are doing. I loved what Kosta said. The politicians own the past, but we own the future. I loved that. Just perfect. You own the future. You and your powers of focus and creation and attention, you own the creation of the future. You have the power to create what you want, regardless of what your government is doing. You own the future. You and your mob, you and your spiritual team. Yeah, you're not doing this alone. Yeah. So, get together in groups. And if you want to join my group, I'm online every week. The Inner Sanctum, I call it the Inner Sanctum. I thought that was a cute name. And we talk about how we are the creators of our reality, and how to overcome our fearful and limiting thought forms and raise our vibration and consciousness. And then once we reach a level of feeling more love and understanding in our own being, how do we extend that out to community and to the world? I call them the New World Teachers, the difference makers, just sharing our stories and how we overcame adversity. It's powerful stuff, right? It's powerful stuff. Yeah, if you've been living in depression and then you've overcome it, and now you see yourself as a being of love and light, share that with people. Talk about that. How did you do that? Because there's a lot of people stuck in their story and stuck in their depression and in their anger and resentment and stuck. So it's up to you guys to share how you got unstuck and started feeling the love, the love, the love, the love, the love that is our source, the love that is you and me and all of us, even the tyrannical people in this world, the cabal and the government and whoever you deem as evil or not good. They are an extension of source energy as well. We all are. There's not one being that is not. There's only one source of energy, and it is a source of pure positive energy, which we can allow or pinch off. And as we pinch off our connection to that, then we start to do things that doesn't benefit the whole. And that's what we have been living in on planet Earth for a long time. Selfish, fearful thinking. So even the people that think that they want to control the population are just living in fear. They're just indulging fear. They think they're powerful. But if you need to control people to feel powerful, then you're living in fear, right? Yeah. Love does not ask anyone to do anything specific. Love allows. Love allows. Just like the love that is our source allows us to create heaven or hell in our thinking and in this world. It allows us. It gives us that choice. It gives us freedom. Love is freedom and allowing. Love allows. Yeah, they're what we call good or bad energy, good and evil, is actually one source of energy that is available for the evolution of human consciousness. It's all one energy with polarized opposite ends of the stick. Yeah, which end are you going to focus on? What lights you up or what tears you down? And that's the power that you have to place your focus and attention on what you want and what lights you up instead of what you're afraid of. Keep flowing your energy towards what you want. Flow your energy towards what you want. Think about what you want. All right, I'm not going to talk much more. Thank you again for listening and watching. Love you all big time. Join our group, buy the book, yada, yada, yada. Sign up to the web. I haven't sent a newsletter out for like 6 months. I've got to send a newsletter out. I'm not good with the newsletters. But anyway, join anyway. And one day I'll send a newsletter out. And I love you big time. Bye for now.